Hi, I'm Jim Miller, and I want to say a few things about a show that I put together. Actually, it's two shows, not one show, it's two shows here. One of the shows is about St. Vincent through the years. I started doing artwork, pictures, paintings, drawings of St. Vincent back in the 60s when I was there, into the 70s. And even after I left, I did a number of artworks, views of St. Vincent, some as recent as 2016. And I'm going to show you some pictures of that. And I just wanted to say a few things because to point out the fact that there are really two different shows here. The one is pictures of St. Vincent and the other is called Up in Smoke. And it is a totally different show of non-objective work that has absolutely nothing to do with St. Vincent. That show, most of that was done, almost all of it was done out at the old Westmoreland glass plant in Grapeville when I lived there, and I managed it as president of the Mainline Works, and we ran it as a place where artists could live and work and exhibit. It was a really great experience, and I have a lot of non-objective paintings from there. What I mean by non-objective is that they're not representational. There's no attempt to represent any object. They're just a matter of color and form, visual elements, the elements of design, line and texture, form, color, all the good things that you can put together when you're not trying to work as a picturer. I'm going to cut this short so that I can show you some pictures of the St. Vincent works and some pictures of the Up in Smoke series. So, hang on. We are going to look at some old pictures of St. Vincent. This part is no longer there. It was the bandwagon courtyard. This down here was the bandwagon, and up here is Sauerkraut Tower. That's a drawing I did quite a few years ago. Another drawing showing Andrew Hall. And this part of Andrew Hall is now gone. It was damaged in the fire in 1963. Bede Hall is also gone now. Here we look over that corner that I showed you before from the outside. This is the northwest corner of the old quadrangle. Here's the mill where I used to work back in the 60s. And here's some more outbuildings. This was the tractor shed, and once upon a time they actually kept pigs in that building. This is the courtyard again. The bandwagon down there. In the background you see the new monastery. Again, the northwest tower of the old quadrangle. And then to the right you see a little bit of the new monastery. On this landform here once sat a church that was built in 1835 before Boniface Wimmer and the Benedictines even arrived. And that was pretty much the focus of the big fire that really tore through the place. A painting I did back in the 60s, the boiler house. This is what they had accomplished by 1857. The Benedictines found this church and a few other buildings there, and they started to work to develop it. And in a little bit more than 10 years, this is what they had done. And that is the present carpenter and print shop. This is about 40 years after the Benedictines arrived, what they managed to achieve. That's a lot of work. And this is what they found when they arrived at St. Vincent. The old 1835 church, the pastor's residence, a log building, and a little schoolhouse. This was back when St. Vincent had a brewery. This was a brewery. This was the malt house. It's the mill that's still there. And that's the quadrangle and old sauerkraut tower up there. That's the mill over there and the other outbuildings. That's the old tower, built in the early 1870s. It became a symbol of St. Vincent, an iconic structure, and it was destroyed in the big fire in 1963. Looking at the monastery from out in the farming fields. That's the present machine shop. A painting from about 1968 that I did. Another one. This shows the back of the Basilica of the Apse. That's Brother Tom smoking the bees. He was a beekeeper. This shows some of the fire damage in the big fire in 1963. That's Bede Hall that was torn down. This shows you the new monastery. It was built about 1966, 67 in that area. This is the old sauerkraut tower. These are buildings down by the lake, the malt house and mill. All these buildings are gone now. The barn and the outbuildings. This was the greenhouse. St. Vincent had a greenhouse over by 981, and that's gone now. Another shot of the bandwagon courtyard shows some of the damage done by the 1963 fire up here. This shows the beginnings of the science building. This is when they first started to drill, take core samples and put in foundations, showing Sauerkraut Tower in the background. And this is the northeast tower of the old original quadrangle. That's still there. That's the northwest tower of the quadrangle, and that is gone now. That's a drawing I did back around 1970. And behind a willow tree, you can just barely see Aquinas Hall. That was the they were the classrooms for the seminary. Brother Benedict, a good man. This was done at St. Vincent's Shaft. That was the hoist motor that drove the elevators up and down in St. Vincent's Shaft to bring the coal in and out and the men in. Brother Norman, now president of the college. Bede Hall again. The mill. That's the malt house that was associated with the brewery. Egbert Donovan, he was abbot in the 60s and into the 70s. Damien Warnock, a priest at St. Vincent, he was a friend of mine. This is the house that sat on the foundation of the old brewery. The Tuttles lived there, Tom and Daisy Tuttle. Tom took care of the pig farm. And that tells us that we're at an end here. That's the old tower that was once upon a time the symbol of St. Vincent. And I'm going to push a button and shut this down and say so long. Now, it's time to see some pictures from the Up in Smoke series. That's the other part of the show. Totally different stuff. I mean, completely different from the St. Vincent pictures. This is where the things were done. Beautiful old factory, and the Thing is called Up in Smoke because this whole wonderful old factory went up in smoke in a very bad fire. And the paintings that you're going to see also went up in smoke. But fortunately, I had 35 millimeter slides of the paintings, so we were able to make prints from the slides, and that's what you're going to see. That's the interior of the factory. That was my studio where a lot of the paintings were made, most of them. That was one of the walls in the studio. A lot of my tools hanging on there. You see, these are done on glass pallets. It was an old glass factory I was working in. And there were two pallets here. They was like combined together. They were the pallets or boards that the glassware was put on when they come out of the furnaces. And I used them as a painting support because there was just a lot of them around, you know, so they were good things to use. These numbers are totally meaningless. I found a lot of stencils in the factory, and I used those stencils in the paintings, and the only meaning they have is visual. Please don't try to read any meaning in anything that you see or read. This was a stencil I found in the shipping department. There was also a lot of paint left in the old factory, and I had a lot of paint that I could throw and, you know, use for visual elements. I became interested in the skins from the top of paint cans, like a gallon paint can. I would take that skin and throw it down on a glass palette and use that as the beginning of a composition. In this one, 4 different palettes were used. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, you'll see the stencils showing up, which have absolutely no relationship to the visual thing. It's just simply a visual element that I throw in there. I was doing a lot of roofing at the factory. These were spools from the ends of roofing material. There was a lot of work to keep that place going. I was named Gabrielle, one of the people who were at the factory. There were a lot of people there. We were doing artwork. This was done during the the original invasion of Iraq under the older George Bush. It was called ground war because it was just my response to a ground war, to a war. It's not an attempt to picture anything. It's just my experience or feeling about it. Some of them are more pleasant and tranquil. This is one of my favorites. And maybe we've gotten to a point where we could put some music on. You can call it music if you want. If you don't want to call it music, then don't. This is music that I did back in 2004.